Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier and this is the Piracy Show, and today is an upbeat and happy show. It's a great show. They revealed the outcome of the poll regarding what players' priorities were for 3.2, and what won was Item 2.0 and all the ship systems that come along with it. All these items that we've been waiting to basically put on our ships and see what our ships are really possibly capable of within the game. Now, seemingly, I guess, obviously this was my choice, and, probably a lot of yours as well. And I think that it's a really important thing to kind of have this information, to have this kind of stuff come to life in the game very, very soon, because this is kind of that missing component with a lot of our ships. What are they really capable of? What can we do with them? And more to the point, what needs to be fixed on them? Because there are certain physical issues, and we've talked about certain physical defects with some of the ships, but a lot of them are going to really depend on what you can do through the Item 2.0 system, where you can take it, what you can do with it. Is the ship, is there some kind of hidden aspect to the ship that only kind of comes to life once the system comes into play? We talked about the Caterpillar obviously recently a couple of times, and this is very much one of those systems that might reveal new depth to the Caterpillar and might change the way that argument is oriented. It could flip it on its head for all we know. And so to have this system be seen as the priority, not only by myself but also the community as well, I was ecstatic when I saw those results. As soon as that came up in the video, I paused it and I looked and I went, oh yeah, it's perfect. I know that there are going to be people who are like, oh no, I want the shopping experience, and all of that is all of that really is it's interesting stuff. It'll be cool stuff to have, but really the meat and potatoes that we really want to get down to is how are all these ships going to function, because this is a sci-fi game that features spaceships very heavily, and so we would like to know more about how these ships are going to work in the verse. And I mean, it's very important. A lot of people like to point out, it's just alpha, and yeah, it is just alpha, and this is the time to be testing out to see what works and what doesn't work so it can get fixed before we go to live release. That's part of what alpha is. It's the kind of sifting through all the detritus to find the truth, and to see what works, what doesn't work, and what needs to be fixed. Now, to give you an example of what I mean, we've talked about the Xeon Scout a bunch of times. The Xeon Scout is one of those ships that's had a bit of a rough history. And, originally when it was sold, it was a 2-man ship with 6 guns. Then it was a 2-man ship with 4 guns. And then it was a 1-man ship with 2 guns. It's kind of seen a shift. And, as the game evolves, or as CIG's idea of what the ship should be evolves, things can get changed. We kind of accept that to a certain degree, but there are certain things that we still want to see a ship be able to do. I mean, if it's called the Xeon Scout, then it should probably be pretty solid at scouting, right? That's one of the big things. But, possibly, that ship has a very large shield capacity. Maybe, even though it only has 2 size 3 guns, maybe through the Item 2.0 system, you might be able to crank those shields up to the point where that is actually a really strong ship. And maybe the reason why it only has those 2 guns is because its shields are just ridiculously strong. That's one of the things that we could see play out through this system. That's why it's so important to get this kind of stuff in early on, so we can really start looking at these ships and at these vehicles at a very granular level and see what is really possible with them, and what concerns are justified versus what concerns are not justified, or were just empty worry. Now, one of the things that I kind of wished had made it higher up on the list, but it's more of a personal thing than I think broadly for everybody a game thing, but as I was wishing that the AI entities at mission locations specifically the ones that we can fight, that we can get into gunfights with, would be a little bit higher on the list, because that's something that I would like to see. On a personal note, like, I have found that adjusting to gunplay in Star Citizen, beyond things like Arma, beyond things obviously like Battlefield or Call of Duty or anything like that, adjusting to Star Citizen has probably been the most difficult. And it is something that I really have yet to get a comfortable grasp with. I don't know if it's just, the fact that you have a helmet on so you can't really hear it. It's somehow, to me, it feels off. I don't know if anyone else has really experienced it. This is more of a personal thing than something like, the View and the Cutlass or something like that. I don't know. To me, the gunplay in Star Citizen feels a little off, a little weird, disconnected in some way. And it's not really down to a question of accuracy, because I realize that they're kind of going for that realism. They're kind of heading in that armored direction. But I don't know. It's something about how it all works out to me. Like, just the act of firing most of the guns, with the exception of the P8, I find, it feels very just weird and uncooperative. It's the only way I can put it. I really don't know how to quantify it. You know what I mean? So I don't know if anyone else has been experiencing the same thing. It might be me. It might be server-side performance. It might be client-side performance. It could be any number of things at this early stage. But to me, it really feels weird. The most comfortable weapon in the game for me is the P8. Everything else, even the pistol, the LH86 combustion pistol, they feel almost overreactive. It almost feels like something that's kind of going out of control in your hand. I don't know. Once again, it could end up just being client side. It could be server side. I don't know. But it feels like there's a disconnect when I'm shooting between what I'm aiming at and what I'm actually hitting. But, maybe I just need more time to get used to it. And so I was kind of hoping that the AI was going to get in, and that we could, get into some gunplay with the AI at various mission sites. And I could kind of explore that and see, is it me? Is it the game? Is it the server? What's going on? And then kind of go out and do some research and see if there maybe isn't an issue. One of the things that I had thought of might possibly be it, is that as this game is in development, a lot of things are in flux, a lot of values, a lot of changes are going to be made from client to client to client. And so, as you try to kind of establish what the baseline for that rifle is, and then kind of zero yourself to that baseline, kind of get used to it, build up that muscle memory, if it's constantly changing between iterations of the game, you're always going to feel a little off, you know what I mean? But generally, even in that scenario, with each build, you kind of get to that point. You kind of get to a point with each version of the client where you kind of zero in on the performance of the different weapons. And I feel like for some reason, I feel like I just can't get there. And it's weird. It's kind of like you're trying to hit the bullseye, and you can hit all around the bullseye, but you can't quite hit the bullseye. It's almost like there's an invisible force field that's kind of pushing your hand away from that point. It's very difficult to explain. And I was hoping that the AI were going to get into the game, especially at the mission sites, that we could get into some gunplay with them. And I could kind of explore that idea some more. But I don't know. I don't know. Leave it in the comments below if you guys have been experiencing the same thing. This early stage of the game, it's to be expected that you're going to have, obviously, it would be like trying to build your house on the shifting sands of Daymar. Things are going to change, and it's not really a stable foundation to try and lay a foundation on yet. But I don't know. To me, it always feels just a little off, and so I was wondering if anyone else was experiencing that. Anyways, yep, that's where I'm going to leave it. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.